Explore real estate insights with Jonesing Realty, Global Touch Mortgage, and Scott Realty discuss wealth building.
So this is Frank Brown. I call him affectionately my brother from Global Touch Mortgage. For those of you who do not know, there are not many Black-owned mortgage companies in Huntsville, and this is one of them. And he does great volume. I personally have seen so many people to him deals that I did not think I could get done over the table, across the line, and he's done it with ease, no sweat, even though I was sweating. But that is Frank Brown. And then a lot of you already know LaTisha Marsau from Huntsville, but they are officially here today for Scott Realty. They are a wealth of knowledge on the build side. So I'm so excited for you guys to hear what both of these people have to impart in you, and hopefully when you leave here today, you'll get, if you already had invested, you'll get a little more information. Maybe you have done flips and you want to invest a new build or vice versa, whatever it is. But I want to just plant a seed with you that wealth and generational wealth it's what I want us to achieve in 2026 and beyond. So thank you for honoring this walk-in, and let's get started. So I have just a little bit about my background. My name is Shawntee Singletary, and the reason I got into real estate 8 years ago, it'll be 9 years in April, and I was in general real estate. I did well in general, and I decided to go to a builder to kind of, I'll be honest with you, expand my money. I don't want to do money. But after having conversations with people who I felt had the money, made the money, like myself, we didn't really know what to do next. So it's like we make the income, and now we bought the house, we've done things that we wanted to do since kids college, all that. But now the next level, like I want to invest. What do I do next? How do I get started? And me being in the business, I wanted to kind of share that knowledge with some people who may, because it can be a little bit intimidating. Like, who do you go to? What questions to ask? Or how do I get the most of my money? It's different types of investments. What do I invest in? So we're going to try to answer those questions as much as we can today. But every single one sitting on this platform, you'll have access to be able to sit down with us and ask questions if you need further help. So even if you've invested in houses and you've never done a build from scratch or fourplex, this is somebody that you may want to talk to. If you have had issues getting funding and you're looking for specialty funding, subprime funding, this is someone that you want to talk to. If you're ready to get into new build and you want to not spend as much money flipping, or you want a ready house that you can gain immediate income off of, then I'm the person to go to. So here on this platform is what you need, and I'm going to kind of pass the mic while I ask questions. And hopefully, if you guys have questions, just interrupt. Cool? Okay. I know y'all used to singing Silly Sean, but I'm in business mode right now. So ask me questions. Okay, so I'm going to start off with Frank, and I want to know from you first, on the lending side, what are two key things that you feel like a beginning investor needs to know before they even start looking at properties, anything like that? What should we do first?
That's a great question, son. Hey, y'all over there. Let me just make sure y'all up. I got to make sure everybody woke. Okay, I'm gonna bring a little light to you. So come on, it's money. Everybody get happy when it's some money on the table, right? Hey, okay, all right. So it's some money on the table. Y'all about to learn about it, okay? So one of the first things that you would want to know if you want to be an investor is your buying power. Okay, you can't invest unless you know exactly what you can afford to invest in. So you want to know your buying power, okay? Typically, your buying power is going to be your assets, your income. Typically, okay? But now, the way the market is set up, there are options that don't actually go off of your income. It's the ROI, okay? ROI is return on investment, okay? You can borrow money from me based on the return of investments of the property that you're going to purchase. So if that income is enough to qualify you, you can buy just off that, okay? So one of the biggest things is find out what your purchasing power is. The second thing is, what is your credit score? Okay, let's not play in the game, because you're going to have a low credit score. Now, here's the funny part. You don't have to have a high credit score. A minimum investment score is 620, okay? 620. And the typical amount when you invest is 20% down. But as we continue to talk, I'm going to show you how to invest with less than 20% down if you're a new investor. Y'all like to know that, right? Oh, yeah. All right.
Okay, so one question. So tell me about I am a first time investor. I have a home. I have a person that wants to rent a home for me.
Okay.
And I'm looking at a home. Tell me how that works and I can get into a home already having a lease
Okay. Gotcha.
with minimum down.
All right, the minimum down.
Yes.
Okay, did y'all hear the question? No. All right. She already owns a home. Okay. She wants to purchase an investment property. She wants to do it at a minimum situation. That means minimum out of pocket. And she has somebody that's ready to rent her current home. Okay. So let me explain it this way. You get 75%, all banks. Okay, not just Frank Brown. All banks across the board. They're going to use a 75% factor. That's a vacancy factor. Okay. That means if you're making $100 a month, they're going to give you credit for 75 of that. You have to have a 25% vacancy factor if you're an investor, because you might not always have that house rented for the entire 12 months. Okay, so that's what the bank is going to do. So now, if you're leasing your home, let's say it's $1,000 a month mortgage payment on the houses you already own. So that means you need to at least lease that property for $1,100 to $1,200 to meet the $1,000 mortgage. You got it? All right, that's a wash. If you wash it, that means that debt is not against you. Now, Sean can go out and buy a beautiful new home without having that debt against her DTI, debt to income ratio. Okay, that's what DTI is, debt to income ratio, to purchase a new home as an investment. Does that make sense? Yeah. Make sense? Okay. So 75% factor means that you need to at least rent your house for 25% more to be able to get a wash on what your mortgage versus your rent is. Okay. Does that help out, Sean?
Yes, thank you. And so, Marsau, LaTisha, tell me, with today's economy, how things are right now, I've already had investments, properties, and now I want to build my idea of a fourplex. What if I come to you and say I want to build a fourplex? What do you offer? Can you find me the land? Can you take me to the lender? Like, what does your company do for someone who has already had investments but now I'm ready to move to the next level?
Hey, good evening. First of all, thank you for having us out. To answer the question directly, when if you came to me and said, "Hey, I want to build a fourplex," one of the biggest things with real estate, and when you're investing in real estate, is you really have to begin with the end in mind. And I know sometimes that may go over your head, but let me just say this: like when you're going somewhere, you have to put the address in first, and then your GPS gives you a direction back, right? So you have to understand what's the goal of why I'm investing. What am I trying to gain? A lot of times, people with younger people, I know I invested in fourplexes when I was younger, and the goal was to have cash flow. But the truth is that fourplexes don't really give you the cash flow, because after you start adding all the different things up, and now you have the common area maintenance for the cam, and you have the landscaping, and then you also have garbage, and you have pest control, and then you start adding all those things up. You don't really have that DTI, that debt income ratio, or it's not shooting down the NOI, the net operating income. That's what we're thinking. So the number one thing is, what's the goal? When you come and say, "Hey, I'm looking to build a fourplex," my first thing is, what's the goal? Because a fourplex does not necessarily generate the income that you think the fourplex is going to generate. I think at the end of the day, when I calculated it, because I bought a fourplex. So just using some background on LaTisha and I, we're not guys that have been investing for 50, 60 years, okay? We are the people that I started off building in-ground pools, and then I said, "Hey, I ain't no money in that." So then I got into flipping houses. I call them flipping houses. I really just buying mortgages and trying to hunt people down and pay me to rent, And after that, I said, "You know what? There ain't no money in this. I got 10 real homes that I'm getting $400 a month on a good month." All right? So I said, "You know what? Let me just go into multifamily." So I went and bought a fourplex. I bought a 12-plex. I bought a 60 unit. And I started realizing the sweet spot in which to start making money. It started economies of scale. And to a certain point where we start growing your revenue, that you're not really making the money or the windfall of money that you wanted to make until you get enough units. until you get enough units to say, hey, listen, these units, if I have half of this occupied, then this will cover the debt service, and this will cover until it costs. And then afterwards, you start making money on the last 2 or 3 units. If you have 12, you start making money on the last 6, if you're 16, something like that, okay? And so you really have to start looking at the asset. And just to answer your question, and even talking about Francis, is that you have to look at the asset. Does anybody know what a pro forma is? A real estate pro forma? Well, when you're investing, okay, well, yeah. So I'm not sure where everyone's at when it comes to that. So all I'm just saying is a word, but I'll try to give you a brief layman's definition of what these words are. So when you're investing in real estate, you have to start looking at the asset that you're looking to purchase. That asset is a business now. So you have to look at that asset as a performing business, and how is that business going to perform? Okay. And so when you look at the asset, the pro forma it's like a business, it's like a real estate business plan. It allows you to look at, if you're going to do multifamily, it says, okay, I have X property. It's going to cost me X amount to build. I build it in certain areas. You are looking at the value of the property if you sold it as itself, for the cost of that property, or what it appraised for, which is essentially the cost of that property. But then afterwards, you're going to be looking at, what does that asset bring? Like, what does that do as a business? That's why when he said the ROI, or the net operating income, kind of both the same thing to a certain extent. But the net operating income, it says, this is what this asset is going to produce. Do I make sense on that? Right? If I'm buying a fourplex, my overall goal is saying, what is this fourplex going to produce for me? So the pro forma is like a real estate business plan, and allows you to look at the asset. It says, I can charge X amount of rent. I can charge X amount. I'll get X amount of dollars per year. My debt service is going to be this. My pest control is going to be this. My common area maintenance is going to be this. I took this out because of vacancy or whatever. I have X amount of information for maintenance, and you start working your way backwards. And those numbers aren't lying to you. Those numbers aren't lying to you. So if you if you find a fourplex that you can build for $250,000 or $400,000, and your debt service, you'll get a mortgage for $350 or whatever it's going to be, and your debt service and after you run the numbers, you're going to end up making $20 a month if they're all occupied. That's exactly what you're going to make. That's exactly what you're going to make. Most time people need to understand that rental is a long-term strategy. It's not a quick flip. It's not a quick fast thing. It's a long-term strategy.
I got a comment, and you're absolutely right. Marsau hit it right on the head. People just being or companies or corporations that do multifamily. Guess what they're really looking for? Not profit, write-off. It's a loss. I'm just being very honest with you. I have plenty of investors. 4plex, 8plex, 16 unit. When I look at the ROI, a lot of times it doesn't technically make sense. But when I look at the income, he don't need money, or she doesn't need money. She needs a tax write-off. And that's what multifamily will give you. It's a great tax write-off. Great information.
And let me just so let me just add to that. So for someone who is already in investments, but someone who's beginning and starting out, maybe you're hearing this and you're like, well, I'm looking at it and I want the residual income. So places like Lennar, who builds homes, and your return would be a little higher. We have it's a nationally traded company. We can work deals as your return be higher. So start there, because you have the warranty that covers you on the home repairs. You have the appliances are already there. It's already done. So the only thing you're doing is collecting income before you get to the level of 2, 3, 4 multiplex and that type of thing. So having that little sweet spot before you even start to begin on that level, you can start with one home. It is possible to start with one home.
I was going to say, just make sure we're clear. We're not talking about looking at the house as an asset. You want to look at like it's like a vehicle. That vehicle, you purchase a vehicle, and then you're going to use that vehicle as a taxi cab or as a move. Okay. So number one, you buy the vehicle. The vehicle has a value in and of itself, right? But then you use it as something different. And so now your vehicle is going to be assessed based on not just the cost of the vehicle and the style of the vehicle, but also how much money the vehicle generating. And so when you buy the multifamily, it is a long-term investment, but after you stabilize it, which means that you get it rented up, We get everyone leased out, and then you're showing that income for a couple years. Now you're selling this asset, this apartment complex, or just a home or whatever, this portfolio as a performing asset. You say, hey, I'm selling you this vehicle, but this is what it generates. You don't have to do anything. So now I'm selling you this business. And at that point, you start looking at how can I sell this for a multiple instead of just the value of the home, because the value of the home could be $400,000. But if it's stolen down, or the value of the fourplex could be whatever you pay for it, it could be $600,000. So I said, well, I think it's good enough for $600,000. Yeah, but mine is pretty clear, and mine is paying off, $150,000 a year. This is what mine is generating. So now mine is worth more than that. So you have to start looking at the business of it as and I would say the number one thing I would advise any first time investor to do is get yourself some cars. This age, I'm telling you right now, I've done it alone for so long. I've done BNBS by my damn self for so long. I can tell you right now, anything you achieve without power is mediocre compared to what you could do with just a group of people. It's simple. It's simple. Because right now, what we're talking about is spending $400,000 to make $25 a month. That's just not a great strategy. That's just not the right strategy. And in 25 and 30 years, if I'm going to pay off, no, you guys, you collect the buying power of 3 or 4 individuals, and you collect the skill set, 3 or 4 individuals. I'm telling you right now, I'd rather have 25% of a watermelon than 100% of a grape.
Very good point. And I actually have him personally mock having to let's pull together and buy some land, do something together, which is something that we don't do. We don't do that. We don't think, everybody thinks like what they cost or whatever, but put the systems in place, the corporation in place to protect you, and definitely pull together and buy some land. We owe it. So I came here in 2016. I've seen the growth of Huntsville. The housing median was 169 when I came. It's now like 360, I think. That is huge growth, not even in 10 years. And do we own a portion of that, a piece of that? I look around the room, most cigar smokers, it's the finance is not the issue. We have the money, but what are we using that money for? How are we moving forward? How are we building generational wealth? And are we being afraid to pull our money together and build something great in our own city, my adopted city? So my next question is, knowing that everyone here has dabbled in investments, know about investments, all of that, what is one thing that you say, I would never, this is a mistake I made, I would never do that again. I would never make this mistake again. Share that, please.
That's a great question. I would probably have to piggyback on what Marsau said. By not trying to take on too much by yourself. Okay, that is a lot. No matter how much you know, no matter how much skill set you have, and sometimes no matter how much money that you might have set aside, it's still so much, because when you take a loss, it's not spread through anybody but just yourself. So I was kind of looking just as Sean was talking, and think about a $300,000 investment. 20% is 60 grand. If you had 6 people, that's 10 grand a piece, right? It's a lot easier to come up with 10 grand than 6. If that investment, let's say, didn't pay out the way you thought it was, but it still was paying out, you're only out 10 grand and you're still making something. You still own some type of asset. So I will not try to ever take on projects now by myself when I can clearly ask for help and hope I can get somebody back.
I would like to say, I think something I would never do again is probably fall in love with the project. Like, look at the numbers, what's your number, and stay on target with the number. You have the design, you have your architect build out the design, don't change things up, keep it. And just don't fall in love with it. Like, just do it's a business project, it's about money, you're making money on it, and at the end of the day, this is my number that I want to make, and that's my focus. I'm not switching anything up, and I'm not falling in love with it because it's not my personal home. So
Yeah. But I want to say why with that is that, I'll just get perms. Getting perms on particular, you may not be able to trust people, but operating agreement, that's what operating agreements are for. Right? That's what courts involved for. You know, that's where ironclad, that's where the attorneys are core. And just for an example, if you on the front row, if you file invested in each individually invested in a home, right? Just the operational cost alone, right? The amount of time you find finding contractors, the amount of time you find getting the maintenance guy, by the time you find, just people that just do individual things. Do you know how much money is wasted between the five of y'all? Whereas if y'all pull together and you all invest and take it, now you have one office administrator, not five. You have one person, one attorney. You have one tax, consultant. So now you have one person preparing all your taxes for 5 different properties, right? So all those costs individually. So individually, you got to spend $1 million, but collectively, you get the savings by the group purchasing. You get the economies of scale. You get to utilize the same person. Now we start to get familiar with the person because now we're saying, hey man, I need you to fix the roof. I got 5 different roofs for you to fix. You're my maintenance guy. I always can keep you busy. So now I can keep a reliable person. So I'm telling you right now, the idea of pooling together, the idea of coming up with something, say, hey, listen, we can do this, looking at the numbers, getting in a group of people who you trust and you don't trust. Yeah, but nice. I mean, do you trust everybody that you do business with? Gas stations? No? You don't trust everybody, but you have a reason to say, you know what, we got some tools and mechanisms in place that allow me to move forward and seek my interests at the same time maintaining your rights. So I just think that I cannot stress enough, doing it by yourself is an easy way to get a lot of enough.
I think we have a question, so.
Yes, gentleman over here had a question. We'll bring you the mic, sir.
Hey, everybody. My name is Ray. My question is, can you give me an example of how 1031 exchange works? Still fits on how it works.
Yep. Sure. I can give them.
So that,
Oh, go ahead, Frank.
I'll just share from the money aspect. From the money aspect, it's just money that you're not cashing out, so you don't get taxed on it. Okay, just very simple. You have an investment where you can pull this money through, and you're going to purchase this home. You're going to put it through this 1031 exchange. It's not technically liquidated, so you don't get taxed on that money. Take care of that business, and you just keep moving. Okay, so it's just not cashing out the funds that you're using to do an investment with, basically, through a 1031 exchange. All right.
I think the important thing to remember about a 1031 exchange is you're on a timeline. So when you're getting into that, remember that you're on the timeline to find the property, you're on a timeline to close the property, like there's a timeline. And that's, so for those of you who are, there are plenty, like I'm looking, standing in the room, there are realtors in the room. Thank you, baby, for being here. Hey, Sam. There are realtors in the room. But so that's the good thing about having teachers a realtor that are working on your behalf, because they're the paper pushers. They're the ones that keep the time clock for you. There is an absolute timeline, and you can miss out and get fined on a 1031 exchange if you're not following that timeline. So when you talk about a 1031 exchange, yes, you're moving that money, but the most important thing is you have to stick to that timeline. The government is not, they're not playing with that money. Like, you have to stick to that timeline. But it's a great tool because you're not getting taxed on that money. I have definitely found in the South is that not so much in the North where I'm from, but y'all leave property for y'all family. And I run into people all the time. Be like, yeah, my granddad left me such acres of house. And I would encourage, if you are in that situation and you have like a house that you know you're not going to live in, to definitely do a 1031 exchange for something instead of just cashing out that money you can tax on it and then buying yourself, a car or whatever. But for sure, talk to someone about the best way to roll it over to a 1031 exchange is definitely beneficial. On my next point. Okay, so y'all's opinion on getting into investments on flips, Airbnb, brand new homes, like what has been your experience? And I'll start it off on the type of investors. And I feel like when you first get into real estate, one of the first things you need to know is what type of investment you want to do. And basically, like Marsau was saying, like Frank was saying, knowing your end goals. If you're planning on doing a long-term thing, if you have the income, you just want to tax write off, what are your end goals to kind of gear yourself into what type of investments you want to do? If it is a flip, if it is, a new build, whatever it is, to kind of gear towards what exactly you want to gain out of that. So my next question to you guys is, what are your suggestions for someone who's getting into it and they're unsure of where they want to go, but they do have the funds, they have money to put down, they have money, the money is not the issue, but they're just unsure of where to go next. It just, they don't know the maintenance, they don't know, in my first time investment, I'm brand new, way behind the ears. What would you suggest to someone?
Wow. Get your team. Get your team. Get your team. All right, I'm just go ahead and break it down to you. I would not try to take on certain things that I don't know anything about, especially if my money's going to be tied into it. I've got a real deep relationship with my money, and so if I don't lose it, it's going to hurt me. Okay, I'm gonna feel some kind of way. So it'd be better to build a team. Somebody that knows a little bit about this, somebody knows a little bit about that, and that way you guys can collaborate, try to come together, figure out what's the best route to go based on your house or duplex or triplex. Because at the end of the day, when I talk to investors, the first question I'm gonna ask, what's the end game? Is this long term? Now, a lot of people are like, why you ask if it's long term or not? Because it's gonna matter on the type of loan project I put you in. And why you say that, Frank? Well, if you tell him to keep this house at least 3 years, but without doing anything, I'm gonna suggest to you, let me put a prepayment penalty on this loan for that. That means you can't do anything for 3 years. But I'm gonna get you 1% or 0.5% better on the rate because the investor knows you're gonna keep this loan for 2-3 years. Okay? So now that 1% could be, if it's a $300,000 house, the 1% could be a $200 difference in the bank. So that could be your ROI, return on your investment that you're getting additional to whatever you're doing. Okay? So it's really important to know. If you say, hey, friend, I'm probably gonna keep this 30 minutes, I'm gonna flip, I got somebody that's gonna buy it. I don't need to put you in a loan that would penalize you if you want to get out of it in 30 days. That's gonna cost you money. Okay? So the best thing is to always try to be clear about what you're gonna do. If you don't know what you're gonna do, try to figure it out before you come talk to a person that's gonna give you money, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna ask you some simple questions and then I'm gonna be ready to give you the money. If you don't know what to do with it, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, like you said, get a team, but also get you a mentor or a coach. Find somebody that's doing what you want to do. Like, if you see somebody there doing some things and you like, hey, reach out to them. Take them out to lunch. Take them out for coffee. Marcel talks to everybody about business. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of people nowadays that's charging a lot of money to coach you and show you this and show you that, but there's also a lot of people that's willing to show you and talk to you, and you don't have to pay a whole lot of money. YouTube is like university 101 for other things. I just think you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to be lost out here. I know when we first started our investment, it was like in 2006. So we were not there. We didn't know what we was doing. We learned the hard way, which is financially. And now you don't have to do that. You can actually reach out to someone, see somebody on social media that's doing what you want to do, reach out to them, follow them, and just say, hey, I would like to pick your brains. And just talk to them. Don't go in it without a plan. Have a coffee.
Yeah. Well, you can't stress enough. I mean, this stuff is real simple. All right. When you see the guy that's selling made his first flip and he's driving Lamborghinis and Ferraris and he's selling packages for $6,000. That's not real. I mean, it's that simple. It's not real. When you see the guy that's struggling and again he's waking up on Saturdays morning and he's going and he's doing Home Depot, that's probably more result on your line what you're going to be doing. All right. No, well, what I would say is this: make sure. I mean, we cannot stress enough. You're talking about people who've done it themselves, right? You're talking about people who've done it themselves and then work hard. I mean, and that's really because you're putting a lot more. Honestly, putting a lot more on the line than just your investment. Once you go all the way in, I mean, you're putting your marriage, you're putting your time with children, you're putting all that stuff in that same boat that you want to invest in. Because now it's absurd for your spouse to think that you can spend time on this project or take this vacation when you have this and you're everything tied into this. And that's just the reality of it. All right. But I would say, get your team, get you contractors that you know what they're doing. That get a team of contractors. Everybody's got an uncle, everybody's got a cousin-in-law, everybody's got these people that do work for them.
All right. And it does cost all that. You know, when you make your numbers, I would say always make your numbers. I call them Home Depot prices. All right. At least if you open the phone book, y'all got phone books now, but open the phone book and go, hey, plumbing. What are they going to charge? That's the real price. All right. The fact that some guy's going to do it for $75, that's fine if he's going to do it right. But that's not a real price. All right. That's a hookup. That's theft. Someone's doing something wrong. Okay, I'm telling you right now. Anybody that because if we don't do it, you're real life. You know, you're not good at knowing your worth and how accurate, and then charging pennies on the dollar. Like, so it's not a real thing. Right? And then why can't they get over here today? Because they're not doing anything. And why is this great guy with this great price so available?
That's right.
It's just not true.
They don't like you that much.
No one likes you that much. Like it's never not right? And so even if so make your numbers according to the real pricing, and then from there, if you can save money from that, then you save money. Okay. For an example, if a roof costs $20,000, that's what a roof costs. Now, if you're not a guy that's been in your empire, so said I can do your roof for $5,000, get the guy. I'm not saying don't get the guy, but call somebody else. Call the other guy too that can help fix the part of your roof. So now maybe between two guys, your roof costs $10,000 and it wasted 3 months instead of 2 weeks. That's what's going to happen. So no, the biggest thing is really get your team together, know your numbers, get someone that knows the numbers, thereby study. There's too many resources for you to fail at this right here. But the challenge is it's always going to be difficult. I don't care what business you start. I don't care what business you start. All right. My question is, you know, I want to start my own business because I love cooking. Do you love payroll? Do you love marketing? Do you love building stuff off? Do you love sweeping floors? Do you love fixing little small things? Because when you start your own business, these are the things you're going to be doing. Not the thing that you think you can learn to love. Okay. That's why you need a team. So you can stay in your lane. That's why you need a team, because you need to leverage all of these different things and to have the energy to do the things that you're supposed to do and do them well, while others need to do others to do what they're supposed to do. That's why you need a team.
So, ending this, do we have any last comments before I finish? Any? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Question. I have some questions for Frank. That's my friend. So, a couple of questions. If I was a first-time investor, do I have to have an established business to get a certain loan product, or could I establish this, in my first investment in my name? And also, let's say hypothetically, I make quite a bit of money, but on taxes, that we write a lot of them off. So, are there loan products available for me as an investor where I have the money, but on paper it doesn't necessarily reflect that?
Great question. Most business owners make good money and don't show it. They don't want to pay out a cent. Okay, I got respect for that. But if you're not going to pay out a cent, you're going to pay something. Okay, so let's get to Janessa's question. There are loans that don't require any type of income docs to qualify for the money. Okay, it's just a straight ROI. If you're investing into a product that has the right ROI and it will pay the mortgage itself, they'll give you the money up to 80%. Okay, so no income docs, no tax returns, no W-2s, no paycheck stuff. We don't want anything dealing with income. All you need to have is your 20% in your account to 25% for reserves, and then be able to come with your money to the tax. Does that answer your question, Janice?
Let me see. One of the things she said in her name, and I just wanted to touch on that. When you're starting a business, make sure your business structure is set up properly.
Yes.
Like, you don't want to do it in your name. You want everything to go in your business name. So the foundation is structuring everything and setting up your business the way it's supposed to be set up.
And also, many banks, when you're purchasing an asset, many banks require, when you get into commercial assets, many banks require you to have that as a single asset LLC. So they want you to create an LLC just for that bank, because they don't want any kind of, even if you got one on, for anyone that had access to that, you got double loss or anything like that. So they wanted to protect it inside of that LLC.
Yeah, every property should have its own LLC. And also, when you're structuring your business, you don't want it to be abchomes@gmail. Get you a domain.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yes, get you a domain and a business address. It's also important.
Very good. That's very good. Then another question?
I got one for you. I got one. All right, coming to. Where is the difference coming from a commercial asset and a residential asset?
The biggest difference between commercial assets and residential assets is that the commercial asset is designed to be income producing. Okay, even if it's owner occupied, it's designed to be income producing, especially when you're talking about real estate. So you're looking at it from a whole different standpoint when it comes to that, because they're even evaluating different. So there's really three standard ways to evaluate a property, which is going to be the sales approach, the comparable approach, or the income approach. And so real estate, commercial real estate is more often than not before it's stabilized, before it's a asset, an income producing asset. It's based off the sales approach. How much is this gas station worth? What are you paid for? How much is this strip mall worth? What are you paid for? Now, after you get it leased up and you get different people inside, the different tenants, now you can utilize their leases to say, hey, this is my income. This is what the money that is generating. This is what is generating. So now it's based on some kind of multiple of that, the leases that is produced. So that's the biggest difference between the commercial asset and residential. And also the way they're constructed. Construction costs in commercial are exponentially higher than residential. And is the fourth considered commercial? No, this is considered residential. Yeah, it's residential, but that's really only because it's also income producing and income generating. So if I were you, I would look at the fourplex. Through both lenses.
And also, it kind of depends on how it's structured too, because if you live in one of the fourplexes, it could be structured specifically as residential, because you're living in one of the duplexes and you're renting out the other three. So technically, you can do FHA, which is 3.5% down, live in one of or VA, and live in one of the units and then rent out the other three. So it just depends on what your goals are with that as well. There was another question. Mike had the question. Oh.
Yeah, so I'm always in the estimates when we had this conversation. So I would like to, first of all, appreciate y'all putting out here to share this game with us as well. But would you mind sharing like a pitfall that you had to navigate, especially from a building perspective, that like you didn't going into work, no now to share with somebody else, besides making sure you get the right people price or whatever. Are any other major pitfalls that you ran into that you like, man, just great, you got to see this coming, and how did you navigate it? And then the same thing from a borrower perspective, right? Is there something you can do on the front end where you really mess yourself up later on because you didn't start it the correct way?
Well, to answer my question first, it's very easy. I protect all my clients. This is the problem where you're going to do it anyway. You're going to get a project. Somebody got to do plans and specs. Okay, if you're going to build anything, it can't be here. It's got to be on paper. All right? So you're going to give me plans and specs. Then you're going to show me the land that you're going to build it on. Okay? I'm simply going to order an appraisal. The appraisal will tell us everything we need to know from there. How much extra money you're going to have or how much extra money you won't have to have. Okay? The appraised value of what you're going to purchase will determine pretty much every aspect of your money needed in that transaction. For instance, if it doesn't appraise for the land plus the cost to do business, you're already at a loss. So we know that before you even, the only money you're going to lose with me is your plans and specs. Because once we do the appraisal, you know that this is not a good deal. Right out the gate, you know it's not a good deal. Let's say it is a good deal. The equity is there based on the plans and spec. Typically, I have investors going to give you 85 cents on the dollar to build what you want. So that means that if you can build for 85% on the dollar, you're going to be able to get all the cash flow that you need to build that within that loan. Now, you will have to have a 5 or 10% contingency fee. That means money you need to have in your pocket. That is because once I close the transaction, you can't come back to me and say something went up, something changed, the cost, we ain't gonna do that. That's why I'm gonna make sure you got 5% contingency. So if it's a $300,000 project, 5 times 300, that's what you need to have in the bank. 5%, bro. Okay. So that's the simplest way to handle that as far as making sure you don't go too far. Because at the end of the day, if the numbers don't work, I'm not giving you the money anyway. Okay, it's just being honest. We're pre-doing numbers. We're not We're not giving you the money to let you get into the project to figure out it don't work. I gotta have my money back. Let me explain to you. Banks want to lend money. They don't want to lend money to somebody that won't pay them back. Trust me. Your credit score only says that you pay people back well. That's all it says. Okay? So if you can do that, it gives us the opportunity to give you some money to play with. And then when you do right by that money, you have other investors that will continue to want to give you that money. I've got investors that you build a relationship with. Oh, you did that project well? You got another project? Here you go. Nah, we don't need all that extra stuff. You did well on that one. Let's see how you do on this. And then you can build off that relationship. Okay? But mess up the money. They're gonna hide that money like he stayed from. One second, sir. We were with you.
So I've been working with this investor. He just texted me a while ago. What if he's working on the project and they did a hard pull and he needs some extra gap funding to help cover costs, but they pulled, he wasn't saying on to it dropped down to 622. So in GTA you look into the process or I don't know.
Okay, so understand this. When it comes to loans, there's a lot of different loan products. Okay. And I don't want to act like that I am a god on every loan product, but I'm good at what I'm good at. Okay. It sounds like the person you're dealing with is doing more of a construction loan. Okay. Where they evaluate throughout the process. Okay. I don't like those loans for my investors. I like to close the loan, put the money in your pocket, and then you go off of what you told me you was going to do it for. Okay. And then I make sure you got that 5% contingency. When you fall short, you didn't fall short because you already got the money. We talked about that. Okay. So in that particular situation, like I said, that's more of a construction loan, and the bank representatives might at different phases review what's going on, want to pull an updated credit report, want to do all those things. What I found out, those things cause problems because you never know what can happen to a person's credit. Okay? And so with that being said, I don't do loans like that, but that is a way to do loans in the industry. Okay? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a question. Let's talk about the construction home. People that can find some land and build a house is much cheaper than you who buying a house that already built. Can you give me a little information on that?
I'll share my knowledge and I'll let Marcel say his knowledge. That's going to be based off your individual contract. Okay. If you get a great deal on land, and you got a person that's going to do plans and specs, and they can put it together and they can get you a project where at the end of the day, the key is 85% and you can build for 85% or less, then you're in a good situation.
Right.
Anything else, you just have to evaluate based on what you're willing to invest and take on as far as the risk goes. On my end.
I think a major aspect of that land that you're buying is it developed or is it non-developed land? Because when you start talking about I got some land, yeah, there's land and it's in a neighborhood, but do you have septic? Do you have sewer? Do you have utilities ran to it? Do you have gas, water, whatever's going on? Do you have that in there? Do you have the infrastructure? And the reason why is because, when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to certain things like getting water, fire, and domestic, which, getting utilities, gas, whatever it is to your parcel or to your project, these things 5 foot outside of it, they cost the exact same for any building you're putting down there, unless you have to go bigger with water mains. My point is, if I got a parcel of land and I wanted to put a fourplex, or I wanted to put a 5,000 square foot residential hall, or I wanted to put a strip center, assuming they all consume, roughly similar to the same amount of utilities, it's going to cost the exact same amount for civil. When I say civil, I'm talking about the infrastructure, meaning that there's only 2 types of construction: there's horizontal and vertical. And if you're not building vertical, meaning from the slab of the concrete slab up, even through the footings, you're building horizontal. And I'm saying that no one cares. So, you can't say to the tree, "Oh, I'm just building a small house, charge me less." It costs just the same amount to clear the land for a home as it does for
a gas station. It goes just the same amount to bring in suitable dirt to put in the home as does the gas station. So when you're talking about landing, getting the land for cheap, you know, that's one of the questions you have to, you know, yes, you're going to pay for it somehow. You know, I bought 10 acres for $93,000, and then I proceeded to put $1 million in the ground. So that's the good thing about investing. That's the good thing about commercial real estate. You know, they're kind of looking at how you do it. The one thing about business is that every single decision you make has a financial input. I mean, a financial outcome. Every single decision. So if you're early, it's going to be some, you know, somewhat smaller. Some decisions have bigger, some decisions have smaller consequences, but at the end, every single decision. So you have to evaluate those things. So when you're looking at I got the land for cheap, you need to know, did you get the land for cheap? Because it may cost you $200,000 to $300,000 to buy the land. Like, for example, some people say, hey, if you got 100 acres of land, you know, it's worth X. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not developed. It's going to cost you a couple $1 million just to put roads in there. If that, you know, and that's from the marketing side. So no, it's not necessarily that, you know, so you really have to understand what you have and what your intentions of doing with it, especially when you're in commercial, you know. The only reason to get in business is because you think you have an idea that other people's don't. You think you have that you can use the principles and you can apply this idea you have and can generate money and solve a problem. And so there is a risk associated with that. There is no blueprint associated with that. We can get up here and tell you all the things that we've done, but the truth is, it really is about you and your end goal. And do you have an idea that you think you can sell to the market that's going to work, right? And in that, it does follow principles, and those principles are proprietary. Those principles say you have to do the numbers, you have to look at this, you have to understand the market, you have to understand what it is you're buying. Other than that, I'm just telling you, buying a bill of sale.
And even to make it more simpler, like purchase land, you still have to get a perk test. Is the land developable? Is it in a flood zone? If you're talking about if it's commercial and you want to build residential, now you have to go to the city and get certain permits, turn back over.
Okay.
All types of, I hit a nerve.
No, yes. I told Ryan.
Yeah, so it's so much into it, but it goes back to what they're saying, to have a team in place. So you have a team in place, you have people, you have realtors, you have, you know, developers who know way more than you know, who have done this before, that can say, this is the road you're going down before you even present, I want to purchase this land. What am I getting into? As far as the financials is a huge thing, because you purchase applying land and you just got land, you got a pretty tree. Land.
So commercial there in the fan from if you're buying homes, you got, I guess you got, don't you have a rescission period?
No, you don't.
In buying, you don't have a rescission period? No, in buying, no. Okay, well, in commercial, you have due diligence period. All right, you're not about to go buy a plot of land and then go do your test. All right, like you own that land, that's yours now. So in your due diligence period, that's when you're finding all that stuff out. So in commercial real estate, it's not you got to spend money to make money. In commercial real estate, you actually have to spend money now to lose money. Right? So you actually, what that means is that you have to go through your feasibility studies. You have to go look at, you have to talk to your consultants. You have to look at the land. You may even have to do tests on the land. You may have to do geotechnical tests on the land to see what kind of soil you'll have. You have to start looking at all of the things. And that might be $40,000, $50,000 before you decide, nah, I don't want to buy it. That, you may be doing this stuff in your due diligence period, but the best thing is, I'd rather spend that 40, 50 grand and know I didn't want to buy it and then go and buy this land and have to spend a couple $1 million on something that I have nothing, I can't do nothing with.
We had a question, and then I promise we will close. This is good though.
Last question. You all touched briefly on using potential rents as income. Can you also let them know that when you're doing that HN financing, how you can use potential rents towards your income that will also create types of investment for you to go on and purchase other investment properties as you build your portfolio?
Absolutely. We can definitely share that information. Here's one of the most important things. If you do that in the exact same year, meaning you got an FHA home, and you purchase another home, and you're in the same year, you can put a contract and show that you have a lease agreement that somebody is paying you. And as a banker, I will give you credit for that lease agreement on your next purchase so that your current mortgage is not 100% on your DTI held against your liabilities. Okay. If you do it the following year and it's not on your tax, you ain't no running that phone. So that's not your time. Listen, if you don't document it, you do it. Just remember that in banking and finance, if you didn't document it, you didn't do it. Now we have loans for non-documentation, but if you want to use it like the young lady shared, by doing the FHA loan, which means I'm going to look at the last 2 years of your W-2 or tax return as far as that goes to qualify you. So that means if I'm looking at that information and you say, hey, Frank, I got so-and-so paying me rent and I'm about to buy another house and they've been paying me rent for 8 months. Now it's 2026. And I said, well, let me see them tax returns so I can see how much you claim. And you look at me like, hey, no, that ain't gonna work. That's not gonna work. So you want to make sure the information you get is in the right context. Because a lot of times it's right, but it's not right in the right context.
It's not right for you.
Right. Exactly. That's great. Not right for you. Okay. That's great. Great comment. So just wanted to share that with you. I'm gonna share this and then we're gonna shut it down unless it's ready to go because I think it's time for us to stop. So here's what I'm gonna share with you guys. How can you buy an investment property and not have to put 20% down? Okay, real quick, so we shut it up. If you have a grown kid, if you have a grown kid, you need to buy their house, not a single family, a duplex or a triplex. I would not buy another single family home ever in my start out for investment. Understand what I'm saying? Take your child, 17, 18 years old. You got the money. They ain't bought a house. They don't own anything. Put them first on the loan. They ain't got to have no job. You got a job. See, you confused if you think your child has to have income if you got enough income to qualify. You put them first on the loan, so now they're the first purchaser. You're just the money person. You're the cosigner. You buy them a duplex or a triplex. They're going to live in one unit as their own. You're going to pay 3% or 3.5% down. That's so much better than 20. Yeah. And then guess what? Since they're buying it as a first-time home buyer, they can get a grant or a DBA if you ain't got the 3%. Wow. 12 months later, you get them out. You put a tenant in where they stay, and you do it again. You duplicate. You keep duplicating until you get to a point where your portfolio requires you to put 20% down. If you got 3 kids. You got
So just to follow us into what you were just saying, the residential, right? Does that also apply? You look at the current Huntsville market, it's booming, right? Going crazy, right? All kinds of stuff is going on. Does that same model still work for commercial as well?
No. Unfortunately, I don't know if everybody heard that question. He wanted to make sure that would that horror work on the commercial? No, simply because commercial is based on the ROI. They're looking for the return on the investment. Okay.
Also, the commercial, you can like one of the things you can do with commercials, you can look at the ROI, but you can use LOIs or lease agreements as part of your income as well. That's how I'm on the first apartment got for because I was paying $55,000 a year, and I bought $1 million property because they had 40 tenants in it, and I was able to use their leases as part of my income.
Beautiful.
But before we wrap it up, I just want everybody to know that we specialize in building modern homes, smart pricing, and we have one on the market right now. If you have someone that's looking for a modern home in Huntsville, 4602 Whitehall Drive. And if you're looking to build, we design and build.
And that property is gorgeous, actually. So we are wrapping it up. Thank y'all so much. And this was amazing. I hope y'all got some nuggets that have enticed you to ask more questions personally. We can give you guys our contact information, our cards. We have our cards, and I hope that you guys got some nuggets to take home. And Clay standing behind me, so I feel like I need to do brother. Like,
No, just coming up here let's move around the world.
So hopefully you've heard some names today that excited you or intrigued you, and you'll go out and do what? Your research. I think that's what they told you. You need to do your research. right? You need to find your team, your company. There was one question, and I just want to make sure that we clarify a few things. As it relates to getting into investing in your first property, I think a lady said, hey, I want to go buy a home. Should I file that in my name, so forth and so on. So it's all about risk, right? It's all about risk. And on the commercial side, it's called piercing of corporate veil, right? What you don't want to do is buy another home in your name, right? And now you've taken on all that liability. Potential. Maybe you want to. It depends on your risk level, right? Ideally, you establish you a $200 LLC. You get you a PO box. Don't send mail don't have rents coming to your house, right? You get you a PO box, an LLC, and then now you separate and you do what? A third thing, a bank account, right? You don't want to launder or filter that money, commingle that money in your bank account, right? You need to have a separate bank account. You need to have a separate address, right? And you need to have an LLC, right? Just my recommendation from my experiences and my investments. And when you talked about the pitfall, right? Because I've seen people who rent to someone and you get that person, you can't get out of there, and they sue you on some crazy stuff. And now all of your personal income and expenses are available to them. So just be careful about it. Again, another round of applause.
Let me say one more thing for those of you who already have investment properties and you have a trust. So as of March 1st, which is already passed, you can no longer have the trust just as a trust. You have to name every single trustee that is in it. There's 100 questions. I think it's like 120 question documents you have to answer that you have to name if it's your kids, whoever it is in that trust, and you have to pay a philosophical amount to have that removed. So it's no longer I could just have a trust under whatever my trust name is and no one would know. It's going to have the trust name and it's going to have your personal name. So make sure you understand that now the law is after March 1st, you have to remove through paperwork all of the trustees that are under that trust. Is no longer you can just have in a trust name and nobody know who the trust